going on, guys? Welcome to the Essential Scares podcast, the only show that dares to ask the question, is it essential? I am your host, Corbin, and with me today, as always, are Bobby.
Good evening.
Oh, he did the swear finger. And Alan.
I hate you, Bobby.
Ruin the streak. Let's go.
There it is.
This is
Man,
bullshit.
I can't wait to see what Alan's going to say next week now. He has to say something new, of course. Well, we have got quite a show coming at you. We are continuing our search through the post-Scream teen slasher era with Final Destination. But before we get into it, Bobby has a spoiler warning.
I do. This will serve as your first, one, and only spoiler warning for the hit movie, Final Destination. If you do not want Final Destination ruined for you, please skip to the time code ahead for our essential spoiler-free discussion. So, I think it's incredible that arguably the most iconic Scream ripoff has the dude who played Stifler as the most famous actor that comes out of this. Like, that's incredible to me. Out of the 3 movies we've watched that we're going to watch for this season, this trend, he is the most famous actor that comes out of this movie, considering that those other 2 movies are more forgettable than this one. Corbin.
So, do you think that he's more famous than the cast from I Know What You Did Last Summer then? That's what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Today?
Simply. Oh my God, simply. Brandy's in that. Jennifer Love Hewitt is it? Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr.'s in that movie.
Yeah.
John Galecki, the dude from Big Bang Theory.
These
are you
famous
kidding
people.
me?
You're saying that these people are less famous than Sean William Scott?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know.
You know what Zoomers? There's a niche audience of Zoomers who know Sean William Scott as Country Mac. And that is
Really?
about dude. Nobody
Wow.
nobody knows. No, there's not a single fucking person
That's amazing.
who even knows him as Stifler. I am dating myself by knowing who he is. Nobody knows who he is. Dude, and like I was struggling. I was like, these actors look familiar to me, but I was also a child of the fucking 90s.
Right.
So there's no way like it is shocking to me how nobody in this movie went on to do something that was like remotely like big, like what is his name? What's the guy? It's something Browning, I think is what is the actor who plays the main guy? He was like hot for like 2 years, then it was just like completely
gone. A
gone.
lot of stuff in that era,
and then it just gone. After that, just gone.
What about Allie Larder? She was in Heroes.
Yeah, but like, but I don't know her name.
Well,
she
was in Resident Evil.
Well, that explains it.
Oh
Why
yeah,
Bobby
yeah.
doesn't know who she is.
She's Claire Redfield in Resident Evil, right?
Yeah, she's in like 3 of them. Yeah,
but like she's not like
I'm not saying she's more famous than Sean
she's
William
not.
Scott. I wouldn't make that argument.
she's not Daphne or Fred from the Scooby-Doo hit franchise of films, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or not the guy who isn't Sheldon from Big Bang Theory.
What about Kanan? That's the character he plays, right, in Star Wars Rebels, Freddie Prinze Jr. Have you guys watched?
Oh
Star
yeah,
Wars
yeah,
Rebels?
no, yeah, he's the guy from Rebels. He's the Jedi from Rebels. Yeah, for sure. But this.
No idea.
This is the
like, I don't know what
actor's
any of this is, and none of this is about Final Destination.
Essential actors.
So when I'm watching this movie as it gets started,
hard start,
right? hard transition, yeah.
Sure, hard transition because there's no way to break you two. Sometimes you just have to be like, here we go. First thought, right off the top, this movie's rated R.
Yeah,
just outright. Like I don't think I've ever seen this movie until 2 days ago. In its R-rated format, because every other way I've seen it is on TNT, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it blew my mind. I was like, oh, this is actually an R-rated movie. Because when I was kind of replaying the events in my head, I'm like, well, there's nothing in here that should make it rated R.
Because I think remembering the TV cut.
Exactly. Watching it now, I'm like, I mean, you drop all the fucks, and I mean... Again, we've used Walking Dead as our barometer. Is this really worse than any episode of The Walking Dead?
But Walking Dead is R-rated. That's the thing. Like, it's TVMA,
but it's on TV,
which is but it's TVMA, which is the equivalent.
But I want to say this because Alan mentioned it before, and I think I agree with him. Alan mentioned this on our Discord, which you should join, by the way. We're all very active on that. It's a great time. We talk about a lot of things, horror and non-horror related topics are available to us. But Alan mentioned like this. I think that he thought that this was his first time watching this movie in a R-rated setting, and I think this is the first time I've watched this movie in an R-rated setting. Wow. I and I'm shocked by that as being a guy who like ingests horror regularly, because like. There's a scene in this, right? So, like, the premise of this movie for people who are watching the spoiler cast, who are, like, weird, who are, like, people who are not bothered by spoilers, who just, like, watching, like, listening to this podcast, which I'm sure one of you is. The premise of this movie is, and this entire film series, which there are 5 films of this, is a bad thing happens. Right, like a true terrible twist of fate happens, where like in particular this movie, a plane explodes while taking off, only to find out that what we just recently witnessed was a premonition by one of our main characters. He freaks out, or she freaks out in the sequels, and
as one does,
as one does. Leading to several of the participants on this, in this instance, plane ride leaving the plane, right? Only for Death to be pissed off that he did not collect all of the souls, and then to one by one collect those souls, right?
Yeah, and we do mean Death literally, like the Grim
I
Reaper,
mean, yes,
like,
yes. I mean the concept of death, which is pseudo personified by Tony Todd of Candyman fame.
For saying that, because the moment he comes onto the screen and starts speaking, I'm like,
every sequel.
I see what happens here.
He is in every movie except for one, and in every sequel he's like, death finds a way. Like, but one of the biggest moments for me in that like premonition scene where like everybody dies is that scene in even the TV edit goes largely unabated. Except for one quick cut where there is a splattering of blood across like the plane thing. That is not in the TV cut, and I was so confused why that did not exist in the TV cut, because it is so short and so just like splat, and it does not make sense in the movie cut because it just doesn't matter, and it's like it's like it's so unnecessary. It's almost like
that, you know, the blood obviously is cut out, but like the scene of his face melting
that's
down.
What I was about
to
say.
That's in the TV version.
It's in the TV cut.
It's whole hog, the whole bit.
Which doesn't make any sense. Like that's substantially more gory. It's wild.
That's like, absolutely it is. You see the whole thing happen.
I can't think of a part of this movie that doesn't exist in the TV cut that is like not pivotal to everything. Like the only thing I can think of is like what's her face, the teacher, like a lot of the teachers, like
her death is trimmed down because it's the most like it's the most
gratuitous. She gets which we'll get to. I don't want to touch on that right now, but like that's like the only bit in this movie that's not trimmed down for the TV edit. I guess like they they cut Stifler's death down, but like
Just a little
even
bit.
that, but like that is almost worse in the TV edit because you fill the gaps in your mind. It's way worse in your mind than it actually comes out. So the 7 people who make it out are our main guy, his love interest, one of the teachers, his best friend, his brother does not survive.
Mm-hmm. Not that ever really comes up as a plot point.
Nope. Because his best friend dies so early. Stifler and the school bully and his girlfriend.
Yep.
And those people walk off the plane for various different reasons that are based around our main guy. We'll call him Mr. Protag. Mr. Protag's
his name's Alex.
His name's Alex. That's the thing about Final Destination. It's all the characters are almost assuredly one-dimensional and almost assuredly forgettable because you're more so waiting for the twist of fate.
Typical slasher characters, basically. Like they're all stereotypes.
Yeah. And I feel like that comes from this movie being like largely a movie by committee. Because Agent Shrek, who is an FBI,
I love the name.
He wrote this movie. Yeah, he wrote this movie. So he could be a character on one of my favorite shows of all time, The X-Files.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Shrek came out in 2001 for the record.
No, yeah. He wrote this movie so he could be a recurring character on The X-Files. And they passed it up and he turned it into a feature-length film.
Mm-hmm.
This is a real thing.
And we're ever so grateful for it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'd much rather have these 5 movies than a one X-Files episode, which is what it would have been.
Well, maybe a series of X-Files episodes of Shrek of Officer Shrek trying to figure out this thing.
I don't know. Maybe like 2 episodes, like 1 movie length. You certainly would have gotten 5 movies.
I don't know. I feel like Shrek could have been a recurring character on the X-Files.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But I don't think we would have gotten all this, like the Final Destination of it.
Well, okay, so wait, can I, like, I know I'm like bouncing. I'm bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. But like,
you're all over.
I know, but like, can I stick on one point?
Stick on 2 points.
It's insane to me that a movie called Final Destination that is about surviving a plane crash got 5 sequels with the same name that have nothing to do with plane crashes.
Yeah, but they all had travel in some way.
One is a roller coaster, and the other one's NASCAR.
You're traveling to have a grand old time on the roller coaster.
From the beginning of the roller coaster to the end of the roller coaster. Come on, Bobby. I don't understand.
The beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning. There's a message and a theme here.
You're always on your way to your final destination. That's the whole point of these.
I don't know, man. Final Destination is feels to me like
what were they gonna do? Change the name of the franchise?
You can't, right? But
yeah.
but the weird thing is not making about plane crashes all the time. You know what I mean? Like
there's no good solution to this problem.
No. I agree with you, but like this is clearly a movie written by committee that did not have sequels in mind.
No, of course not. I mean the whole concept is definitely like just those kills. It's written. It feels like it's written like a typical slasher. Like you have the set pieces, and then you're just like kind of stringing them along a little bit. And I think that really is what makes Final Destination work, because you have all these completely outlandish death scenes that could not work in a regular slasher, because in a regular slasher you need somebody physical to be there to make
do
it happen.
Yeah.
And so in this one, you get all these like completely ridiculous things that happen. Like, the very last one is one of the ones that is most standout, I think, because like so many things have to occur, and like Michael Myers never could have done that. What's he gonna do? Like, kick the thing over and like have the whole thing set up? Like, it's just not gonna happen.
It's just death creating Rube what is it?
Rube Goldberg. Yeah.
That's the word. Rube Goldberg machines.
Yeah. That's the beauty of the franchise.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and like for what it's worth, every single movie in this franchise, which I'm sure we will cover this entire franchise at some point or another, is incredibly fun.
Mm-hmm.
Even the parts of this movie that are like incredibly not fun, stupid, and boring, right? Like, you'll get 5 minutes of fun out of at the very least, out of every single one of these movies. You're guaranteed that.
As a franchise, they've always been pretty self-aware, and I think that's what has helped.
Yeah.
They never tried to put a particularly deep message into the franchise because it's, the message that is in this movie, death is inescapable. Like, that's it. That's the whole thing. And
I kind of appreciate that it is so, like,
that's
it
just
is
what it is. And
that's
why
anything,
that's why it makes so much money,
Message.
Yeah, and well, even just with that, like, that simple message, you can get a lot out of it. Like, I would say that this movie is the least self-aware of the movies. But also, just, I guess, spoiler warning for the series, or spoiler warning for the episode of these series, is, like, probably one of the best, because it takes itself seriously enough, right? Where, like, the characters are not, minus, I'll say, whatever the bully character's name is. What is his name? Do you guys remember? Carter. Yes. Carter. Everybody except for Carter is almost 3-dimensional. They're not quite. They're 2-dimensional. And then Carter is just like one-dimensional, like, claptrap. But, like, everybody else kind of has a little bit of, like, something to them that goes, oh, yeah, that's interesting. And I think that, like, that's what makes this movie a cut above the rest of these. Does it make it essential? We'll find out in the essential discussion. But, like, I think that this movie really does capture the essence of a Final Destination movie really well. Like, because it hits all the points, and it's like, I was full of suspense and, like, I was really dreading if any of these characters were going to die. Like, it really did work in that way.
So, I had an interesting experience in terms of the suspenseful side of this movie.
Okay.
Because, I mean, we've probably all seen this movie 10 plus times over the past 22 years that this movie has been out.
Easily.
Yeah.
Most of those on TV.
All of those on TV, except for this one.
True. Every time,
I've seen this version of the movie
one of the more memorable bits would come up, I was sitting there, I'm like, how does this play out? And, like, 5 seconds before whatever event would occur, like with the first guy who gets killed and he gets just choked.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, how does he die again? And then, like, as he's walking towards the bathtub, I'm like, oh yeah, he gets choked and they think it's a suicide. And then you fast forward to the next kill. I'm like, how does this girl die? Oh yeah, she gets smashed by a truck.
By the bus.
So, like,
yeah.
I had this
kill.
Oh, that bus kill is very,
out
very
of
fun.
Nowhere.
That's why it's effective. It's just like, we're fine, and then they kind of repeat that with Carter, which is it's good little harmonies there. But my point is, it's like, it kind of lost that suspensefulness for me, because every moment in the movie where I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna happen. Which, that's not the movie's fault. That's not the movie's fault. I know.
Fault, though. Yeah.
But it's just, that's one of those things, like, it made my experience, like, I don't know if I would say worse for it, but just, like, it was something I noticed where every time something came up, I'm like, because it wasn't like Scream.
Did you get excited, though? I mean, like, I've seen this movie easily 20 plus times, right? And for me, like, a lot of those scenes are just iconic bits that I'm, like, looking forward to. So when the thing is about to happen, the teacher starts making her tea, it's like, ooh, like, you're a little bit suspense because, like, what's coming. And even though, it's one of those things where, like, it's coming, but you can't stop it. And you're just kind of excited to see it, watching a train crash, that whole bit.
Yeah.
And...
Or a plane crash.
As it were. So I don't know. I guess, like, I can't say I've ever had that feeling with any movie where I've seen it a bunch of times and, like, knowing the end result is then, like, losing it for me.
I think for me, it's like this movie is not on the same level as something like Scream, where I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna watch Scream.
Hot take, Alan. This movie's not as good as Scream.
What?
Crazy hot take.
The iconic movie from the '90s, Scream, not as good as.
Wild.
In the grouping that we have decided, in the theme that we've decided is Scream ripoffs, this movie is not as good as.
I'll fall on the sword for the whole podcast and just come out here and say it, okay?
Wow,
I will take the bullets here, okay?
Yeah, and I mean, I think I gave Scream a 5, so I was going to give this a 5.5 out of 5.
I know,
but, I mean,
know.
Now that you've said this, it is.
It's gotta go down at least 1 point in the Allen scale.
100%.
I was taken out of this review.
Down to a 4.75. But it's never going, like, when I watch Scream, I go, oh, I can't wait for this scene. I can't wait for that scene. I can't wait for this scene. And I just don't have that same connection with this movie, like, in any capacity.
And yet you've seen it so many times.
I want to edge that gap.
We're gonna get into that at some point.
We're in it now.
Yeah, I have to wait to get into that part.
I would like to edge that gap because I've also seen this movie several times on major cable during like the Halloween season, because it's the only time where anybody wants to show horror movies, which is like dumb. Show them year round. They're good. They're fun. But like I was in the same place as Alan, is almost exclusively only watching this on TV. I don't know why that was. I think it was also because like I'm a pretentious asshole and I was like Screams. But like, so I was watching
only the original.
Yeah, exactly. But like I was watching this and I was like, how does this go? How does this go? And then like the bathtub things, I was like, oh shit. Like it was weirdly, it like added to this. It's like, oh fuck, this guy's not gonna make it. Because watching this entire series of film, because like personally speaking, as much as like I shit on these movies, I love these movies because of how because they as a genre grow into weird horror comedies. With like you kind of see it now, but like it's even more like on its face horror comedies. And if you've watched this podcast for any length of time, you know Bobby loves himself some horror comedies.
I mean, they get to the point where the kills are also funny. So like they just go whole hog. Yeah. I was watching through this franchise with my wife not too long ago, as we were like working through classic horror franchises. We didn't finish it. We watched the first 3, and it just reminded me like how much fun the franchise eventually gets. Like it just gets kind of silly and
I have
dopey.
2 favorite kills, and they're from the last 2 movies. One of them is the first kill from the first real kill from the second to last movie, and the other one is the second to last fake kill from the last movie. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If not, you don't.
Yeah.
I'll just say that the second one I'm talking about, there's a sloth eye. Let's just put it that way.
I love this first movie, but I agree. Like all my favorite kills are in the sequels, like because they just are so outlandish, and that's what makes it for me.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. I love this series of films. They're very fun. They're all, but like
they're very.
I will say I had the exact opposite. But like almost like so opposite, they're almost the same with Alan. Where it's like, how does this happen? How does this happen? Oh shit, this happens. And I was like, let's see how this goes. And like sitting back to the only one that didn't really get me was like the last bit. I was like the last like the ending of this movie, and I think we'll get to it in a second.
Scene?
No, before the French scene, like the climax of this movie.
I agree that's probably the weakest.
Is weirdly forgettable. Part. It's very forgettable. Yeah.
The only part of that whole sequence that I ever remember is the power lines.
Yeah.
The rest of it is like,
But let's actually go from kill to kill. I think is probably okay. So Alan, because this is a slasher movie. It's a slasher of accidents. I think would be the best way of putting it. It's a comedy of error. It's a horror of errors, rather. So our first survivor who dies is our main character friend. Alex's best friend, right? And he is
it's not George, 'cause that's his brother.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
He is in the bathroom.
All we know is he wouldn't have killed himself if he was making plans with me.
which is
as
like,
soon as he said that, I was like, I don't think that's how that works. Actually,
listen. I'm gonna do the woke SJW thing. And he's like, hey, if you're thinking about killing yourself, please contact somebody. Your life is worth it. Also, if you have somebody who you are worried about committing suicide and they're still making plans with you, do not take that as any sort of anything, because people in my life have hurt or killed themselves with the same stuff. Do not listen to this movie as any sort of advice of suicide, because it is not accurate. But in this movie, right, getting away from the
he doesn't kill himself, for the record.
He does not. Yeah, he does not kill himself. He is in the bathroom. He takes a weak dumper, and Death decides to open up the water valve on his toilet, and then he like cuts himself shaving and is like trying to clean himself up, and then catches himself on a makeshift washing line in his bathtub and strangles himself to death.
Yeah,
and a pretty harrowing death scene. I would say, like,
with the
it's one of the best.
Yeah,
the gore is not crazy in this film. There's like 2 bits that are pretty good, but his eyes like popping almost with blood, that worked really, really well for me in that, because it's kind of like where from that point onward he pretty much knows, like, well, it's over. Whether or not he admits it to himself or not, like, there's not much you can do at that point. Like, so that specific part, because they like really zoom, like it's honestly a really nice shot, like cinematically too. Like it kind of cuts and you have like a little audible sound as it's so gross. It works really well.
I'll also say this movie was that part was really scary for me, because I have fallen in the shower before.
Ooh.
I was in a precarious position, and luckily a partner was there to brace my fall. But I have fallen in the shower before. I don't know how else to put it. But
it's fine.
Yeah, it happened. It happened.
Yeah.
And I thought the entire time as I was falling that I was able to. I got it. I can brace myself. I can make it happen. You can't. You just can't. It does not happen that way. You fall, and you fall hard unless someone's there to help you. Like I was like, I got this. I can save myself, and I could not do it. So like watching this in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, I believe if like the soap fell into the shower and I was like struggling, I would just die. There's just no way. It's a slick surface, just off of a personal experience. So yeah, that and like you combine that with like the popping of the eyes, it's like, Jesus Christ, that's scary and very real.
Well, it's such a brutal way like to go when you think about it. Like it's almost like vindictive in a way. It's like you could have just died in an explosion and that would have been that, buddy. You would have been gone. You wouldn't have even known what was happening. You were it's over. But now you're going to choke for about 1.5 minutes and then die brutally. Like it has this tone of anger behind it. Like,
and they keep you going long enough that you think, oh, well, he's like a main guy. Mm-hmm. He's gonna make it, because he's like
they definitely set
25, 30 minutes or so before the first, like, I mean, you see everybody else die in the plane explosion, but like in terms of the point of this movie, it doesn't really get rolling till 25-ish probably minutes with our characters dying.
Mm-hmm. Which, you know what, I'm gonna say this, just bringing it back to that, is that's a surprisingly good device, because there's like you know what's happening on that plane, even though you never actually see it. You know what I mean? Like you see it in like a dream, but you don't actually ever see it.
Oh, like when the plane explodes for real?
Yeah, like you don't know anything that's happening. Like it's a surprisingly effective device, and then like it gives you enough space in between that to this kill where it's like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like you just get settled in, like, with the grieving process for it to hit you again.
So I actually have a question for you guys about this very first kill, and I think it's the only time that it's relevant for the entire franchise. This very first kill you see completely on screen, and you as the audience member knows exactly what is going on, right? You can kind of piece it together.
Yeah.
You see the water is like sentient, like that things are happening in an impossible way, right? And shortly after that, you get the spiel about death, cheating death. So like the pieces are put together for you basically immediately, right? But up until this point, you don't really know what happened. Alex is like kind of a crazy person a little bit, and you just have he saw a vision and then stuff happened, but he doesn't see anything about his best friend. And I think that if this movie were made today, that first kill would have happened maybe off screen, maybe differently, to actually try and position it as a suicide where there is some level of mystery. Whereas like when you're watching this, like immediately like that he didn't kill himself and that there's some nefarious like otherworldly thing going on.
Yeah.
But that stuck out to me because I was thinking about it as I watched this. Like, I think that there was an element of mystery or another layer of complexity that they probably could have added to this movie that
because
would only work one time. It would only work once, and that's the only time that it would work.
The next kill is the girl, right? Who gets hit by a bus?
Yeah, she gets hit by the bus.
So like that, I think
that's like just random enough where you're like,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
and then the teacher kill is like so outlandish. It's like, okay, that could be the big showdown. You're like, well, okay, this really is something is really happening intentionally.
So the question is that a good idea?
Yeah, like how do you think that would have changed like your view on the movie as a whole? Like, do you think it would? Is it good? Is it bad?
I think it would have been a better movie for sure. I think even if it's not off screen, like
if you just didn't see like the parts that are obviously like unintentional.
So like where like all of a sudden like he is.
You can even cut to him like strangling in the
that's
just cut straight to
like him being like depressed, cutting himself with a razor. And then it goes to like the thing where like he drops the thing and like the Todd from the Penthouse magazine, he looks up and all of a sudden it's Todd struggling on the thing.
Yeah,
that would have been a better movie because it's all of a sudden it's like, what the fuck is Todd killing himself? What is happening?
Yeah.
Right. And then but like I think this movie legitimately didn't want to tackle with the suicide being open-ended as part of it. I think that like, again, this movie being an X-Files episode originally, kind of because like the X-Files definitely as a monster of the week type show did not want to tackle hard-hitting subjects like killing yourself.
No,
right? The violence
would have had to have been obviously death from the jump. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I agree. I don't know that. I think that for the vibe, it makes sense that it didn't happen, but that was the only thing that stuck out to me as I was watching this. It's like, I think this might have been better. This might have been better.
It's very clearly like setting up death as the villain instead of like making it a thing, like making it kind of because like even like movies I don't like I don't know, let's say like a Friday the 13th, right? Even some of those movies like kind of keep it open-ended at least for a little bit. Of like who's the killer, who done it type thing.
Exactly. And then it
like,
all kind of comes in.
Yeah. And those make those movies, even that movie, even like some of the Friday the 13th franchise, a better movie for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. But like I think I agree with you 100%. I don't think there's any, even though that kill itself is iconic. Is it to the detriment of this movie? I guess I wasn't looking at it that way because I was so busy looking at the iconography.
The kill per se is detrimental. I think the setup is where you could make the argument that that's where you can make the tweaks. You could keep almost everything the same, but just change the flow of events, and you've got the kind of better look there.
But I think we can all agree that that the actor. The best friend actor does better in this movie than he does in Saw 3D.
Oh, absolutely.
He was in Saw 3D.
Oh, we'll get to it, Alan.
I unabashedly love the Saw movies, so I am
he's
the
a
wrong
main
person,
guy.
frankly.
He's a main guy in Saw 3D, and that in Saw 3D, let me tell you, bad movie. Even in the Saw franchise, bad movie.
And that's saying something.
My favorite cold open of the entire franchise, though, easily.
What is the cold? We'll get to it. Well, I don't want to spoil that. I'm going all over the place with this. So anyway, we move on. Yeah, we move on.
Next kill.
We move on to the bus. How do we feel about the bus kill?
It's so simple but so effective.
It's so good, right?
I like the bus.
It gets parodied in Mean Girls. It works so well, like shockingly well.
I think
that
really
a Disney movie can parody it, and it still works
for sure.
Like,
well, and it sets.
It's not complicated.
I think it sets the.
I think that's what helps.
Sorry,
no, go for it.
I think it just sets. It basically tells all the characters like, no, you're not crazy. This is happening. You will all die. Like that's kind of like the purpose of that kill. It's in a way death being very like forward. Because he's got everybody. Literally everybody's right there, and he's like, you're dead. I win. That's it. Like, and it's just so clean cut, and I think there's something to be said about kills in any horror movie that just happen out of nowhere. Or really, I mean, really any movie. When you choose to kill a character, and you go from like, hey Bob, how you doing? Well, Tom, I'm doing fine, and then Bob just dies immediately for whatever reason.
I can think of 2 iconic kills where that happens in non-horror movies right now.
There's one that comes to mind for me where
I think there's definitely at least one that probably everybody thinks of.
Yeah. So it's just, I think that's, it happens at a point in the movie where it really sets the stage. Like, you can't escape this. Mm-hmm. Period. Like, this is going to happen and I can do it wherever I want. And I really like that kind of tone that kill sets. Even for how simple, look, I don't need the goriest of scenes, but even that scene gives you a little bit there. You kind of see a bit of a explosion of body everywhere.
They all get splattered. They get splattered with blood.
Yeah. It's awesome.
But I want to say this is like this is the thing that in this movie that patterns, and they try to do this in every other movie, but to like the same formula. But like the fact that this is the original formula, that like each kill in this movie serves a purpose. Which is really interesting to me, that like all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, wait a second, like he died, so like nobody escapes death. That's like the first thing you get, and then all of a sudden in hindsight you learn, because Alex goes, oh my god, they died in this order, but like there is an order to death starts with her, right? And then there's not much to say about this kill except that it's effective and it sets this up. The next kill that happens is Stifler's death, but it happens in a really interesting way.
No, the teacher dies next.
The teacher dies.
Because remember, Stifler's just riding around on his bike for the like most of this movie. Yeah. And he just shows up like
right after the
hanging out. It's awesome.
Yeah, this movie, the next death in this is Alex is the only one who is really catching on to this, so you have to save him, and so him being held up by the most gratuitous death of this entire movie is the teacher's death, which is really weird to me, because like the teacher is
wrong.
She is by far the most human character out of all this, and maybe it's because I am a man approaching my 30s now, and like
she's the older character.
Yeah, and like I know a bunch. I am friends with a lot of teachers at this point in my life. She's like, yeah, if I had a student who was like, we need to leave, and like a bunch of my kids died, I'd be like, I need to go to a different school. You need to transfer me to a different school right away, because like one of the kids had a prolific vision and got us all off the plane, and I sent one of my coworkers to die. I'd be like, yeah, I need to like I need to restart like immediately. Put me somewhere else. I need to make that happen.
Yeah, like, she has the best motivation out of all of these, and maybe not motivation is the right word, but like her understanding of the world is one I think we're just more equipped to relate to at this point in our lives comparatively, because I don't think that we would have the same kind. I don't think even you would have the same kind of reaction. You rewind 10 years, maybe, but like you have that connection
10 years
to them.
ago
That
in college? No way.
Yeah, you have that more that connection at that point in your life. Whereas it's like when we were younger, it's like, oh, the kids, you know what I mean?
But like even like, but her death is also weirdly the all of these deaths seem weirdly believable.
Almost except for hers.
Except for hers, like I'm sorry, I grew up on those type of computer monitors. They would have not blown up and stabbed me in the neck. That just wouldn't have happened. Straight up, like I don't
laugh because that is the only part of the whole movie that really dates itself like hard. I mean, one of the things that I thought about pretty early on while watching this movie is like, oh, you know what? With the killer being death itself, the movie retains an odd sense of timelessness. Like, there's nothing
except for like the fashion in this and her death.
Exactly. Like the fashion dates it. A couple of like the comments date it, but even then they don't actually talk about like anything in most of the movies, so there's not a lot of that. And then her death when she's killed by the CRT monitor is like, oh, that's very 2000. and that like stuck out to me in a way that it never did any other time I watched it. And I don't know, I just thought it was funny because like that would never happen, of course, but a lot of things happen in these movies that would never happen. But also because like I was able to place this movie pretty reliably just in today, 2022, except for that one shot. And I was like, oh, that's definitely not something that would happen now.
Yeah, it's just weird. Her death is like the most visceral, but also the weirdest. Yeah. Like everything from like the knife to the explosion. Like it.
What about when the ice? She pours vodka over her ice, and then the whole mug cracks, and that's the beginning of yeah.
Well, it's like, I don't know about that.
Has it ever happened to any of you?
No.
And then she doesn't notice that she carries it through the whole house.
Yeah.
If any of you have watched the YouTube version of this show, it's very clear that most of us are drinking a substance, and it's typically alcohol when we do this podcast. I've never once run into a crack in any glass I've ever dealt with. So it just
especially
feels
a mug of all glasses.
Yeah. Yeah, ceramics, no way. So strong.
The only ceramics that cracked were the shitty ceramics I made in the 8th grade. All right, those are the only.
You kept those long enough to crack those?
Oh, absolutely.
Good for you. I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
Alan's
a very nostalgic boy here. What's your favorite part of the teacher kill? There's so many little things that happen.
Ooh.
What's your favorite part of the machine? I have an easy one too. Alan, go for
knife.
It's
the knife.
It's the knife.
It's so good.
She pulls the towel down and the knife comes down. That's great. I think that's the most iconic part of the whole scene.
It just becomes just it almost becomes your pure comedy. Like,
for sure.
It's
pretty
like
much Bugs Bunny. Like, can you believe what just happened?
I'm watching Looney Tunes with this kill. Like, when the fire goes from the vodka that went all the way back as she walked, it's
the
like,
whole
oh
house
my
blows
God.
up.
That's my favorite bit, is the fire from the vodka. Just like, what the hell?
So
There's no way. There's no way.
What proof is that?
Yeah. I want that vodka. That's all I'm saying. Like,
she has a hard teaching life. Let me tell you.
This proof vodka is just really getting the job done to light a fire. God. Jeez. Yeah, but it's just so funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah. And is Alex in? He's in there when that happens, right?
He comes in there when she's been stabbed, but before like the chair or whatever falls on top of the
and that's what makes it even better.
That actually kills her, yeah. And he pulls the knife out.
And he's like, oh my God.
Oh no, I'm going to be held liable for this.
Which, that was one of the notes that I wrote down, was like, and I thought about this after Sean William Scott gets killed, was like, nobody reacts when they see somebody get killed in this movie.
No.
They're all just like, they're dead. And then they just move to the next scene. Nobody is like surprised. Well, these are supposed to be 17, 18-year-olds that are just watching people get totally destroyed right in front of them. And
even
they're totally fine with it.
Even when Protag's best friend dies, he's like, he couldn't have killed himself. He said if we had plans together. It's like, instead of being like, no, he's not dead. There's no way he's dead. Yeah, he can't be dead. He's like Mr. So-and-so. He couldn't have killed himself.
But guys,
he already go to the Yankees game.
He already experienced death, okay? That's what you're forgetting here. Is he experienced
Is that
it
what
through
happened?
that
This is a
vision?
Kestrel situation?
So he's so immune to these earthly problems, all right? He's trying to cheat death. He's trying to figure out the design.
But let's talk about how we figure out the design. When our good man Stifler, Sean William Scott, meets his untimely end. So what happens is they all realize, holy shit, dude, like, death is happening for us. And Carter, the worst character, goes, I'm just going to kill all of us right now.
Hold on.
We'll be together in the
exact
afterlife.
Quote. I wrote this down because it is the most edgelord thing said in the entire movie. Which, frankly, for being 2000, it could have been way worse.
Considering we have a sheet metal artist in Clear.
Yeah.
Her name is Clear, by the way. The love interest's name is Clear. It's the one name I remember.
Carter says, while driving around and deciding to go 110 miles an hour in a small rural town, I control my life. I control my death. That's simultaneously the most edgelord and probably the worst line in the entire movie.
Decides to brake on the train track. Everybody gets out of the car. The smart decision to do. And then Mr. Protag goes, oh shit, I have to save Carter. Saves Carter at the last second, pulling him out from when a train hits the car. And then Stifler goes, I'm staying away from you. You're next. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die. A piece of debris from the car decapitates his ass.
I think that's one of the
How
best.
do you feel about this?
I love that. I love that.
Incredibly effective.
First of all, I love that he's not decapitated from the neck
tells
up.
us that. Oh, from the
Love that.
Yeah, from the mouth up. Yeah.
Yeah. But I like that it falls into.
Would you say this is the most iconic kill from the movie?
No. I wouldn't say that. Maybe my favorite, but not the most iconic. This one?
No, not the most iconic kill. No.
Is that what you would say?
It's the one I always think about when I think of this movie.
Really?
That could just be a me thing, but anytime I think of Final Destination, this is the kill that comes to mind. It's just
I would say that this is the most iconic for people who've watched the film, not those who haven't. Which is like more people than not.
Okay.
Because once you watch this movie, this is the most subversive kill in the movie. Because you're expecting Carter to die, and you're expecting Stifler to survive, right? Like you're expecting him to, because he's not next. Right? And because this movie teaches you the most prominent lesson of all, is if you cheat death again, it skips you till the next time.
Mm-hmm.
And so this movie, I would agree with Alan, because I've watched this movie. I wouldn't say it's the most iconic kill of this movie, because this movie has more things that are talked about, but this movie is like the one that's, I would say that Stifler's death is the one that sticks with you the most, because you're the most taken aback by it. Because think about this as the first time you're watching it. You're expecting Carter to die anyway from that debris. You're not expecting Stifler to die.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it's like thump.
That's true.
Plus, it again almost feels very Looney Tunes-esque, where it's like,
oh,
we're
absolutely
just gonna keep
does.
running over this, and then you're gone. Like it works.
Yeah.
And I think in a weird way it works better because of the pure cartoonery we just saw with the teacher dying. Like, it almost feels like if you don't have that kill before this, it makes this kill less believable than it already kind of is.
It's upping the ante almost.
Yeah, but because you've seen what happened to her, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess.
That's what happens.
That's fine. Yeah.
That's what death wants to do.
Yeah. He just wants to fuck around and find out.
We missed the Tony Todd bit. Do we want to talk about the Tony Todd bit?
We talked about it a little bit at the beginning.
I just think it's cool that
you
he's
mentioned
in
it.
The movie. I mean, I don't know what else I would want to say about it. You know, it's like, oh,
Tony
Todd's a dope guy.
Tony Todd is the voice of death. Yeah, Tony Todd is the voice of death. He's a mortician. He gives the whole thing about like death does not skip. Death will come get his prize, and then it moves on to the rest of the movie.
He does chew up the screen from the moment he comes on. You're like, oh, hi, Tony. I'm so glad to see you.
So that is the final death of this movie
Is
that
it?
is on screen.
Yeah, but we know that Carter gets killed at the end. We know that he gets killed.
So let's I'm gonna briefly run through it, right?
Yeah.
Our Mr. Protag goes, I'm next. I'm going to go sit in this cabin in the woods and I'm gonna stop myself from dying. And then he realizes that he in the vision moved seats, which would have made him die last for some reason. No, he would have he never moved seats, which means he wouldn't have died at that point. He would have died later, which means that Clear, his love interest, who we have not mentioned in this entire movie, but is this entire review, but is a pivotal part of this movie,
And
would die next. Yeah, and the sequel, which we'll get to. It would die next. So he immediately runs out, getting chased by the FBI, which is another subplot of this movie that we did not mention, but you've watched this movie at this point because you're watching the spoiler cast.
And if not, the FBI are in it.
That's what happens.
He runs, basically tries to save her. Death is trying to kill her with electric wires. He grabs a power line, and it moves forward to 6 months later. They're getting off a
Don't
flight
touch anything.
to Paris.
You're grounded by the tires.
Yeah, which is simultaneously fair and stupid.
Yeah.
Him, Carter, and Claire have gone to Paris in memoriam, I suppose, to them, and as they recognize that, oh my God, the thing has reset, Carter saves Protag from death, only to, at the last very finishing seconds of this movie, be approached with sudden death himself, and then the movie ends.
Specifically saying, I'm the safest one, or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm the safest one, and then gets annihilated by a sign that just crushes him. I love it.
I love that scene. I love that for those final moments for two reasons. First of all, because it feels like it's Death changing the rules again, because they think they understand the order, and Death is like, who even cares about the order anymore? Like, I'm just here to finish this off. And then, second of all, I love it because for a movie and a franchise that approaches comedy, for that to be the final moment is honestly kind of hilarious.
Very funny, yes.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's very funny. It's
Yeah.
a very funny ending to that movie.
Yeah, it's incredibly effective, and it sticks with you in a way because you just kind of like, well,
you know he's gonna get squashed by that.
You can't escape. It's just it ties things up, and it honestly ties things up in a better way than I think this movie almost had any right to. Like, in a really weird way, this movie this movie just kind of like ties it and finishes itself off in a really creative way. You know what I mean? Like,
this movie was so not expecting to have a sequel in
absolutely.
any way, shape, or form. They're like, this movie will be by the numbers, it'll make its budget back, maybe make a small profit, but not enough in any way, shape, or form to do this. And then Scream happened, and they're like, well, shit. This is happening, I guess. People are super interested in horror movies, so I guess we have to make a 2 of this, which really sucks because nobody wants to see this except for the actress who played Clear, which I guess happened. Well, how do we make a second Final Destination movie? This movie's on a plane crash. What do we do? Like, this movie is so very clearly like, this is just a nice, concrete fin. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, again, it was based off a show that was a Monster of the Week episode. Then they decided to make it an hour and a half.
In terms of the profitability of this movie, I want to hit on that real quick because Bobby mentioned it. This movie cost $23 million.
Yeah.
4x. 4 1/3 x.
It made it up to immediately
for people for people that aren't thinking about this, it was $23 million in 2000, right? They probably filmed this movie in like late 99, early 2000, whatever. that is actually a gigantic budget for a horror movie. If a horror movie today was made with $23 million, that would be considered a big budget horror movie. Scream 5 has a budget around that area, and it's been 22 years of inflation. So this movie actually would have cost it would be like if a horror movie today was made that cost $50 million.
Close, $37 million with inflation.
37.
And in terms of its profit,
yeah,
or in terms of how much it made, so it made $112.9 million. That's $182 million in today's money.
That's like a blockbuster.
Wildly successful
for a horror movie.
Yeah,
I mean that's giga cash right there, and
that more than deserves its 5 sequels.
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely,
it paid for the others. It paid for every movie after it in the first movie almost.
Right. So after that, it was all money. They were all liquid. I do have to ask though. This movie might have made a lot of money, but do you think it was good? I mean, we've said we liked it. We said we loved it. Maybe we said we've watched it dozens of times between the three of us, probably 50 plus times between 3 people.
I would.
How do we actually feel? You wouldn't go that far? How many times have you seen it, Bobby?
Maybe 5 times.
Really?
Okay. Well,
yeah.
I've definitely seen it at least 20 times. So I feel comfortable. I'm gonna stick with 50 plus. I'm sticking with it. All of that said, how would we rate this movie? We rate movies here as 0 out of 5 with half points allowed. Alan, I'm gonna start with you.
I'm going to come in a little strong, and I'm just going to say it. 4 out of 5. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I think this movie is inventive. I think this movie... Did it mean to do any of this? Probably not. But it did. I think this movie understands in a way what it's trying to... It gets it. You know what I mean? Like it knows kind of what it is, and it doesn't really try to do it. It doesn't necessarily. It's not try hard. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the movies we will watch that are very blatant Scream ripoffs, and not just the ones we're going to cover for this month, but just any of them. They try too hard. Like they really try too hard, and that was so evident in Urban Legend last week. So evident, and this movie really doesn't. It kind of just does its own thing, and it's incredibly enjoyable. It also, I mentioned at the beginning, this was probably the first time I ever saw it not on TV. And in a way, it's a movie that's very well known in just general consciousness of film, not just horror film. Like, you could walk up to plenty of people and go, you ever seen Final Destination? And I feel like 8 out of 10 people are going to say, yeah, the one with the death guy and they can't escape. Yeah. Like, I just feel like, in general, this movie is kind of, it's fairly well known. And frankly, a ton of fun. So,
there you go.
I'm coming in strong. 4 out of 5.
Wow. All right. 4 out of 5. So, I was originally going to go in random order. But now, I'm going to go ahead and try to do highest to lowest. And with that in mind, I'm going to go next. So I actually thought that I was going to come in hottest with my score. And Alan blew me away with a 4 out of 5. I think that this movie is a blast. I do think it's a ton of fun. I think that it is endlessly rewatchable. I think that it is oddly timeless, like I mentioned earlier. The music is actually really good. We didn't mention it, but I love the theme, the Final Destination theme. It's so good. We also didn't talk at all about like John Denver being so oddly present at like the Herald of Death. Like, what's up with that? I don't know. But it's funny. All in all, I would give this movie a 3.5 out of 5. I'd watch it again tomorrow. I don't care. I don't think it's incredible, but it's so much fun. I have to give it a little bit more than a 3.
I was at a 3.5 when we came into this, but I bumped it to a 4 as we talked on it.
There you go.
It's really interesting how Corbin just doesn't seem to miss when it comes to rating these in the correct order. Because you know what I would give this movie more than anything else in this world is a 3 out of 5. I really enjoyed this movie, and I knew that's what you thought it was going to be for me. I enjoyed this movie. It was really fun. It just, and this might be a slight spoiler for the essential part of the cast, but it doesn't even hit me as the most essential of the Final Destination movies, despite it being Final Destination. I
might agree with that, actually.
But it's fun. It's interesting. It's probably the best of the Final Destination movies. It's probably like the most like put together film of them. But I guess that tells you what I think of the rest of the movies. But it's just very much a movie by committee. There's just too much of this movie that doesn't make sense, and we didn't really hit on all of those points in this cast, which is my fault more than anything else because I was directing where this cast went. But it was fun. I like it. You should probably watch it. It's pretty fun, but it's not more than a 3 out of 5 for me personally.
There you go. Nice. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind our viewers and listeners that we don't discuss our scores with each other in advance.
No, we do not.
When we start recording, I don't know what they're going to rate the movie. I don't know what they're going to say to the essential discussion at all. We're as blind as you are when we start this.
And sometimes,
which is part of the fun.
We get totally shocked. See a previous episode relating to a movie that 3 of us hated and 1 other person loved. And I'm not going to say anything more than that.
Oh, that was
episode 11. Yeah. Are we talking about Lights Out?
Yep.
We are talking about Lights Out. Episode 11, Lights Out, everybody.
That moment
I'm
when
glad
that
you
score
remember
is dropped
Yeah,
is hilarious. Go watch it on video. The reactions are...
that's a great video.
Yeah, youtube.com/essential scares. I don't know if we have our own YouTube URL yet, but youtube.com, you should definitely give us that.
I would love to have our own YouTube URL, though. So if you're listening and you haven't subscribed, that would be pretty cool, because we need a certain amount of subscribers before we can do that. With that said, let's talk about the essentiality of this movie, gents. Remember, no spoilers. Is this movie essential to horror? Yes or no? For everybody that skipped ahead to this portion, our scores were Alan with a 4 out of 5. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, and Bobby gave it a 3 out of 5. If you've been listening or watching for a little while, you probably know that the scores are oddly irrelevant to this question here. We've said yes or no to plenty of movies along the way, regardless of their actual quality. And with that in mind, I would like to start with Bobby.
Sure. I would say as a whole, the Final Destination series is essential to horror. The idea of death being in control, it being horrific and scary accidents, being the thing that is the most prevalent, and like this idea of like rules of death is entirely essential to horror. That being said, this isn't the essential Final Destination movie. We'll get to that one eventually. I know we will. But this isn't it. So no, this movie isn't essential. This movie is fun. I like it. If you like Final Destination movies, watch this one because it's the first in the franchise. But I look at franchises as like you have to look at one. There can be more than one essential movie that is essential to the Final Destination franchise, but the first one does not necessarily need to be the essential one, and I don't see this one as essential. I really don't. So no, it's not to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lead off of that. I agree that the Final Destination franchise is essential to horror.
Okay.
I think it is probably one of the essential franchises. I also think that it's fair to say that multiple movies in a franchise can be essential to horror overall, and they don't have to be the first or last entry. And I also think that an entry can be essential to its franchise without being essential to horror. That's a discussion that we approach regularly on our sidecar series, Franchise Dissection, whenever that airs. And there's been plenty of movies on that I've said yes to that I would say no to on this show. And I kind of feel like I would probably say yes to this on that show, but no to this on this show. And I think I just agree with Bobby for the reasoning. Like, with franchise openers, a lot of times you feel like you have to say yes because a franchise is essential, but you can't really watch the rest of the franchise without starting at the beginning. And this is one of those franchises that you just totally can. It just doesn't matter at all. They explain it every single time. There are really not very many, if any, recurring characters. Is there payoff if you watch all 5? Sure. But if you just start with Final Destination 3, that's totally fine. You're not even going to miss out on anything. And I think with that in mind, I'm going to say no today.
You know, over here on my island, we have wonderful fruits. No coconuts. We have plenty of pineapples.
No coconuts.
No coconuts. That was for Bobby.
That is a Vosh joke.
Yes, it is.
Two of us are Vosh leftists.
I wouldn't go that far for me, but
you know what? Alan's a Vosh leftist, even though he's a centrist. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Me out in my essentiality bit.
That's right, Tankies. Let's go.
Oh, jeez. I think yes, but with a caveat.
A yes, but.
I mentioned that this was my first time seeing this in an R-rated format. Every other time was on TV. I think this movie holds a special place in that TV horror movie space that a lot of other movies don't necessarily fit into. Plenty of horror movies lose a lot of their luster when they're on TV, and I don't know that this loses anything by being on TV, minus fuck. That's really, like, the only thing you lose here. But other than that, you've got almost everything within this movie. And I think that has its own merit, because this, to me, is a horror movie that could be, for people like me, was one of the probably first ones I ever saw. So this movie came out in 2000, I was 8 years old. At the youngest when this movie came out. This is probably airing on TV no later than 2002, 2003 at the latest. So I'm 10, 11 years old when I see something like this. I think this is a movie that is kind of like, it's a very good, approach. This could be like Horror 101. This movie would easily be in that class as one of the first potential horror movies anybody within our age bracket would have ever really seen or could have seen. Now, Corbin may be a bit of an exception there given his parents, but regardless, for someone like me who I didn't get into horror until, 1, I was way older, but 2, like, I saw this movie on TV when I was a kid. Like, that was going to be my first experience with this movie. So it's like, yes, but I think it's because it holds an incredibly specific niche within that just kind of barely slips it in.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Definitely a different approach.
Yeah.
So
Speaking
two
of
no's and 1 yes. But
speaking of the Book of Boba Fett, what are you guys up to? Can I get where you guys at? Where can I get your handles?
Yeah. So I'm gonna lead off. You can find me anywhere at Corbangerang. I tweet pretty much every day. I've been keeping up with my hobby streak. I'm up to day like 53.
Frankly amazing.
Absolutely amazing. So I've been building a lot of Warhammer lately. I've been playing a ton of Destiny. I'm taking a week off of Halo because the ultimate reward this week totally sucks, and I know I'm going to play a lot next week. And that's been pretty much it. I have been lucky enough to contract COVID in this house this week, and
Yikers!
work's been super busy, so that's like all I've been doing. But you know what? I have been watching the Book of Boba Fett. I'm caught up. It's so good. I don't see as many people talking about it as they did Mandalorian. I'm not 100% sure why, but I think it's as good as that. And it's kind of a strange thing that's happening, I think, in like the Twitter sphere. But either way, it's incredible. But yeah, that's me at Corbangarang.
You can find me at a seal punter just about anywhere. Disc golf putting league started up this week, so I'm back at it on Thursday nights. But this time the way it's set up is I think it's like 15, 20, 30 feet. And on like a regular basket, which if you've ever seen a disc golf basket, like there's, like, I don't know, like a foot and a half or so of chains that come down. And then you go to 20 feet and 30 feet, but on what's called a marksman basket. And that's just like a tiny little bit of chains in the center. So the idea there is you have to hit like a good solid putt right in the center to actually make it. Otherwise, it's not going to make. So that started up on Thursdays. So we normally record the show on Thursday evenings as a little behind the curtain here. So I end up going straight from disc golf to here. But yeah, that's been really the new thing for me. Haven't done much else. Played a little Shin Megami Tensei 5 on my Switch. Oh, actually, I have one
anime.
Oh yeah, tell us about it, Alan.
I have
anime.
All right.
Alan's crying to himself over there first.
So, I got a new Switch. Okay?
Switch
it's
OLED
great.
Featuring
it's
white Joy-Cons.
Lovely. Really, really, genuinely. It honestly makes a difference because the screen's also a little bigger. It's great. So, you know what doesn't get backed up?
Oh no, this is what we're talking about. This is really
Pokemon
sad.
Sword doesn't get backed up to Nintendo's cloud saves in any capacity. I didn't know this, so I traded in my Switch. I didn't do the system transfer because all my saves are in the cloud. Nintendo joined the 21st century. You know?
That's what you thought.
That's what I thought. Come to find out, when I was like, oh, I want to play Pokemon Diamond. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll throw that in. And it comes to the startup screen like, you need to start a new adventure. And I'm like, well, that's fucking weird. So then I go and see save data's gone. I'm like, oh no. And that's when the gears started turning. And I was like, oh no, this means it's gone. Now, the reason this is so incredibly sad is every Pokemon I have bred or worked towards or did anything for was on Pokemon Sword, and they're gone.
And this is honestly, back how many generations?
X and Y. So it's not like I brought, like, I didn't do anything wild where like I brought stuff from like Soul Silver all the way into X and Y.
You could have brought guys all the way from Ruby and Sapphire. All the way.
Man.
Back.
I didn't go that far, but I did lose everything. And I'm real sad about it.
You had a few days to
So
think about this.
no. So I would have been even more freaked out than you because I have the same Primeape from Leaf Green.
Damn.
Exactly.
Up into my sword and shield.
I mean, the thing that kills me
Primeape's
is like
the best Pokemon in the game.
When I think of Pokemon that I'm
joke,
like
yeah.
genuinely sad that I lost. I had an Aegislash that I really loved from Sword and Shield, or from X and Y, that I got during my playthrough. Gone, doesn't exist, deleted. And a shiny Poliwrath that I legitimately caught in the wild that was green, and he's gone.
Imagine liking Poliwrath more than Politoed.
First and foremost, when I looked at the shinies, shiny Poliwrath way better than Politoed.
Politoed is so cute. What are you talking about?
We're talking shinies here, okay? I agree with you. Politoed's a better Pokemon. It's
blue
not a question
and pink,
there.
Blue and pink versus the green.
He's
is
green.
Stupid.
It's awesome.
Yeah, but Politoed goes back into the evolution thing. It's a way cooler. Shiny Politoed's way cooler. I'll fight this.
0 out of 10. Hate your opinion.
You're wrong. It's fine.
So where do we go from here?
Oh, I'm getting rid of Sword, Shield, and Diamond, or my copy of Sword, my copy of Diamond, because frankly, what's the point? Like, I swear to God, Gen 4 is just cursed to me, because I stopped playing Pokemon when Gen 4 came out, because it was dumb when I was of that age, and I was like, oh, I'll finally get through Gen 4, and then this shit happens. And I'm just not going to play it at this point. I'm just going to get Pokemon Arceus, which comes out in 14
Next
days.
week, I think. Yeah,
2 weeks.
The Virgin quitting on Gen 4 versus the Chad quitting on Gen 5.
Okay, I came back in Gen 5. Okay, that's the Giga Chad position, Bobby. So
I'm sorry.
I also
of,
quit on Gen 5.
I love Gen 5. Unabashedly love Gen 5. Bobby, where can we find you? What are you doing?
Yeah, you can find me at twitch.tv/theredweenie. You can find me almost weekly doing our Destiny raid with you boys and a couple other homies. You can also find my relevant socials on my Twitch page. Anything other than that, you probably won't see of me up until February 26th, when I am getting married to producer Mallory. Once that happens, I guarantee I'll be much more relevant. I'll be much more relevant and much more active on social media. Right now, I have dedicated as much of my free time as possible to making sure that this wedding is as dope as hell for the very few people who are attending it because of COVID. Ellen and Corbin are amongst them. So I want to make sure that happens and is good. But after that, you'll probably see me post stuff about my Warhammer stuff about my gaming, maybe stuff about musical theater, because something else I'm into, all sorts of stuff. We'll see what happens. I don't know. It might just end up being pictures of my dog and other dog who is not in frame, and gym pics. That's typically what I do on Instagram and Twitter. So follow me, find out, see what happens after February.
There you go. Nice. And then, hey, you can follow the podcast anywhere at Essential Scares. We're active on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and those are also the only platforms that we have. So, follow us there. On all of our platforms, we have a link to our Discord. We mentioned it earlier. We'll mention it again. Join the Discord. Let's chat a little bit. We were just talking about music earlier today. We talk about movies, TV, games, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, that's the show. But hey, thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching, for being with us on this, honestly, surprisingly long episode about Final Destination. I had a great time, and I hope you did too. If you liked the show, please share it with your friends, share it with your family. You never know who you know that's seen Final Destination, but it's probably 8 out of 10 people that you know. So
it's
just ask them and share the show with them. Yeah. Next week, we are continuing our search through the Scream Ripoff month with I Know What You Did Last Summer. Thank you to Alan and Bobby. I have been your host, Corbin, and this has been Essential Scares.
That breakdown. I heard it during the... No. We all have to leave now! Now! Baby.